Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining and welcome to our Postgraduate Programs in Education Launch webinar. My name is Jad Hardan and I'm the Director of Technology at AFG College. We're going to start our event shortly. You can type your questions in the Q&A section and our presenters will be answering at the end of the event. Thanks again for attending. I'll hand over now to Russell Williams, the Dean of the Qatar campus. Russell?
Thank you, Jad. Good evening or good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Postgraduate Program in Education webinar. Jad, if we could just move to the next slide. Okay, so we've got an outline for this evening's webinar. I'm going to say a little bit about the University of Aberdeen, and in particular I'm going to say something about what the university stands for, and I'm going to articulate that through the university's vision statement. Say a little bit more about our plans in Qatar as well. I'm then going to hand over to Professor Yvonne Bain from the School of Education in the University of Aberdeen, and Yvonne will outline the details of the programme of study. I've got a small section on student services, the support services around your education study, and then we'll go back to student recruitment and marketing team who'll tell you about how you move from application to registration. Okay, great. So just to recap, my name is Russell Williams. I'm the Dean for the Qatar campus. I'm a faculty member at the University of Aberdeen, and ordinarily I'm based in Qatar, but at present I'm here in Scotland in the United Kingdom, waiting to come back to Qatar on my visa. So, yeah, you're interested in the University of Aberdeen. Thank you for that. Just to say a little bit about the university, it's founded in 1495. We're celebrating our 525th year anniversary this year, and that milestone has made us think about who we are, where we're at, but more importantly, where we want to be in the future. And we've been working extensively with our stakeholders to think about our 2040 vision, our big plan for how the institution is going to move forward in the future. Okay, Jad, thank you. Yeah, so what is this 2040 vision? It's going to set out something of the culture of the university and something that you'll be experiencing as a student and then afterwards as an alumnus of the University of Aberdeen. And that vision builds on our past, our heritage, very strong heritage, but actually we're not just resting on our laurels, we're looking to the future and we want to make sure that the university stays relevant for a changing world. And that vision document sets out the key pillars that are going to help us do that. But in our founding documents, if we go back, something is going to remain the same. And the pursuit of truth in the service of others was written in the early documents of the university, and that's still true today, as it was 525 years ago. Okay, Jad, thank you. Next slide. So this vision for the future, what is that vision for the future? Well, obviously the university its primary focus is on excellence in education and research. What does that mean? It means excellent teaching and learning experiences for our students. But importantly, the university is in the business of generating knowledge and insight that will transform the world around us. And a lot of that knowledge and insight is delivered to you, our students, but it's also delivered to the wider community as well. So that's our primary focus, excellence in education and research. And all the rankings of the university indicate that, yes, we are excellent. The university is ranked in the top 1% of the world's universities and figures around about number 20 in the UK. University is inclusive. It has a very diverse population at the university and we welcome inclusivity, we support inclusivity. And actually that difference and the multitude of backgrounds that are present on the university is also reflected in one of the later pillars, international orientation of the university. The university has 120 different nationalities studying on the University of Aberdeen campus. And of course, we've got campuses abroad, of which the Qatar campus is an important part of our strategy to project ourselves across the world. And of course, we're already being projected across the world through our alumni. Two other important things for the university are interdisciplinary education, and that interdisciplinary education is increasingly being targeted at interdisciplinary challenges that we as citizens of the planet face. So interdisciplinarity is about the bringing together of two disciplines, and a good example from my previous school is how the business school is increasingly working with the School of Computing in the area of big data, artificial intelligence, expert systems, to make better decisions in the workplace and in organizations. And all of those technologies and techniques are, of course, rolling out across the educational domain as well. So interdisciplinarity, bringing together different units of knowledge or types of departments of knowledge to tackle the challenges of the future. I'm going to say a little bit more about those challenges in a minute. Sustainability, of course, we're living on a planet, the planet's very crowded, we're consuming more and more, but the university is very conscious about its impact on our environment, and we want to be more sensitive to our environment, but also caring and nurturing to our community, which means, of course, our students and our staff. So what are those challenges of our time? Well, there are lots of challenges of our time, but the university is focusing on 5 main challenges. Energy transition. Aberdeen, like Qatar, is an energy capital, but we like Qatar have been hydrocarbon focused around oil and gas, but of course we're looking increasingly at renewables. We're interested in social inclusion and cultural diversity, as I mentioned before, and that rolls out across the teaching and learning that we do and how we bring people together, and the way that we deliver knowledge and understanding in the classroom comes out of that pillar as well. We have environment and biodiversity as a core theme for the university. It's a sort of flip side perhaps of energy, but it's important for us. And as I mentioned earlier, data and artificial intelligence, those are big themes for us as citizens. It's almost impossible to go anywhere today without having data gathered. But of course, it's got to be the right data, formatted in the right way and delivered to the right decision makers for it to be useful. And that's what the university's focusing on. And then that sort of health and nutrition and well-being, that's another big theme for the university. So those are something about the university that you'd be joining, something about our mission and our vision, or our vision and rather our mission of what you'll be joining. But I want to just emphasize that the university is really about developing individuals, its students, you as students on the program, and we want our students to deliver real impact, positive change through the interactions they have in their workplaces and in society as a whole. And we hope that they come back to the university, and they're also ambassadors for the university around the planet. I hope you find the open day informative and useful in your decision to study with the university. Just want to reiterate, if you've got a question, please feel free to pop it in the chat bar. We're going to watch a short video, and then I'm going to say a little bit more, very small bit more, before I pass to Professor Yvonne Bain. Chad, if we start the video, thanks.
AFG College with the University of Aberdeen is ready to welcome students for the academic year 2020 to 2021. In creating a safe and enjoyable campus experience for our students, we are committed to providing you with physical distancing measures, and enhanced hygiene procedures will be in place to help protect our community. Our team will be available to help you at every step of your journey. Our support services are currently operating, offering impartial and confidential advice on a range of issues, including personal, academic, and more. Our students are our main priority. We're adapting our teaching spaces, library, student spaces, and gyms in line with physical distancing guidelines, so you can still enjoy campus life and the sense of community. We understand how important on-campus learning is to you. We will ensure you receive the same high-quality Aberdeen student experience, albeit delivered differently. bringing you world-class education. Your safety is our concern.
Okay, thank you very much, Jad, for that video. So that's a little insight into our presence here in Qatar. We've been here 3 years now, and we've grown rapidly in that time. But we've got major expansion plans for the future as well, and you'll be joining, you know, a university with a significant presence in Qatar as well as back in the UK. We're currently planning for a new campus of 50,000 square meters. That'll be a campus that has teaching and research. It'll bring more schools to the campus from the University in Aberdeen, medical science, engineering, more law programs, more business programs, and hopefully more School of Education programs as well. And that will cement our presence here in Qatar. What do our degree programs offer? Well, they do involve lectures and tutorials. They offer guest speakers, but I'm actually going to just pass quickly over this one because Professor Bain is going to offer you much more detail about what the particular program you're interested in, the Ipgde program, in a short while. So we'll skip through that slide if we can, Jad. Thank you. And we'll skip through this one as well because I think I want to just get to the crux of Yvonne's talk. On our campus, though, in Qatar, we do have a learning resource centre which you'll have access to. There's IT support. Your personal tutors will be in Aberdeen online from the School of Education, and they'll be offering academic support to you as well. So there's some way of coming to the campus here as well as studying online with the School of Education. Next slide, please, Jan. Jan, can we click? Yes, okay. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over now to Professor Yvonne Bain from the School of Education, and Yvonne will be able to provide you with perhaps the real purpose of your presence here tonight, the detail about the programme and what you need to do to get onto the programme and progress through it. Thanks very much, Yvonne.
Thank you, Russell, and thank you, Jad, for getting everything all arranged and set up. Good evening, lovely to see you all here, and I'll be delighted to answer any questions afterwards. So just very excited to be speaking to you about the International Postgraduate Diploma in Education, our Ipgde programme. So as Russell says, I'm Professor Yvonne Bain. I've been in the School of Education for quite some time. My background was as a secondary teacher, and then I've been in higher education, dealing with teacher education for many years now. The School of Education has a team of about, I don't know, it's over 100 people anyway, but there's a dedicated team of 4 or 5 of us working on the Ipgde programme, or will be working with you on this. So just to give you a little context behind the programme, or what you're coming into. It's kind of in different stages, if you like. So the postgraduate diploma itself is a 2-year phase, 2 courses in each stage, each of them of 60 credits. And then the final stage, if you want to continue, you can do a full master's by undertaking a master's project. But in the first year, you're looking at developing as a critically reflective teacher in international contexts, and then also supporting leading learning in global contexts. These programs are the courses are very much about taking forward your practice, taking a real critical look at your practice, developing your reflexivity as a teacher, and focusing in on that. Thank you, Jad. Okay, I'll move on. So what we're doing within those programs is really looking at professional learning that is about that transformation of practice. Our approach to that is to try and develop a community of inquiry at the heart of it, that is about looking very closely at your own practice, looking at the evidence that you know that learning's taking place, where you might have challenges, and as a community then teasing out what do we do about the challenges that we face in learning and teaching within the school context. The Ipgde uniquely actually embeds a teaching qualification within this, and it has been approved or accredited by the General Teaching Council for Scotland. In Scotland, you cannot teach unless you have undertaken a teaching qualification which is approved and recognised by the General Teaching Council for Scotland. So we were keen that the Ipgde likewise had similar recognition by the General Teaching Council for Scotland, but it's the 2-year diploma part that has that recognition. You can exit, so the previous slide showed you after year 1, if you decide, having done 2 courses, that you want to come out of the programme, you exit with a certificate. But what we're looking at is the diploma over 2 years. So in order to, the whole programme is designed for teachers, is designed for people who have been teaching at least 2 years. And so that experience of teaching is an important aspect of the programme. And I'll be happy to answer any questions in and around that. We want you to be employed as a teacher, have experience as a teacher, and we're developing and enhancing your skills of inquiry to take your practice further. And we do that in thinking about what it takes to engage in master's level study and what it takes to really inquire and ask questions, difficult, challenging questions about your practice. Okay, should we move on, Jad? So entry requirements, it is a master's level programme. As such, it follows the entries requirements required of all our master's level programmes. You need an honours degree, and that should be a minimum of 2-2 classification or equivalent to that. I mentioned having 2 years experience of teaching in schools in the school context. Because this embeds a teaching qualification throughout the diploma, you also need to be teaching in the language of English, so that your normal teaching would be done through the medium of English, because in year 2 we will come out and we'll observe your practice, so there's an expectation that you're teaching in the language of English. To meet the General Teaching Council for Scotland requirements, all teachers in Scotland have to have basic levels of literacy and numeracy, so an equivalent of that is higher English, and SEQF level 5 mathematics. Now, our admissions people will be looking at where there are equivalences. If we find that you haven't got that equivalence and you are looking at potential registration with the General Teaching Council for Scotland later on, then these are the requirements that you would need to meet. But we have things in place that can help you do that as well. Jad, move on. So what is it about our programme? At the heart of this is really we're taking on Hargreaves and O'Connor's idea of collaborative professionalism. And this is about working together to look at how we first of all know what our area of inquiry is going to be. So looking at kind of critical instance, and I don't mean things that go disastrously long, but just looking at our practice from different perspectives, working together to decide on how best to explore, investigate, develop, enhance and transform our practice. And that does mean asking challenging questions of each other. It means being open to different viewpoints, different ways of thinking about things, and taking those into consideration in order to make informed judgments about your practice. So what we're looking for really is not just about academic study, but that balancing up between the academic study, your practice, as well as examining your own perspectives, your own beliefs in and around learning and teaching, for instance, and how that impacts on how you approach supporting learning within the classroom. So drawing from Cortagen's idea of that transformation of professional learning as being a kind of triangular aspect of thinking about theory, thinking about your practice and thinking about yourself. And our programme and our courses will help you do that. So we're using a blended learning mix. So I've called that a mix of scheduled and anytime learning. In other words, you will have live tutorials. We'll be using very interactive spaces through the Blackboard environment that university uses. They'll be scheduled for workshops and collaborate sessions that you'll have almost every week. 2-hour workshops and then collaborate sessions in between times so that you have a chance to collaborate and develop as that community of inquiry as you go through your studies as well. In between, there are also online learning content areas that you work through in themed approaches, and the tutors will be guiding you through that as well. It's very much about having peer-based collaborative learning, and that doesn't mean to say that all of your assignments you just collaborate together and put it as a single document, but actually it is learning with others, from others, together working on things, but independently you are choosing and deciding what is it about your practice that you're going to shape and transform throughout the whole diploma stage. And it is about helping you develop that sense of rigour in and around questioning and analysing practice so that you can take that forward and enhance those experiences for the young people that you are teaching. I've already mentioned year 2 of the programme. We will actually come in person and we'll visit you in school, watch and observe your classroom practice taking place and give you feedback on that. And that's a mandatory part for the General Teaching Council's approval of this as a teaching qualification to be embedded within it. And our sessions typically will be on Monday afternoons at 4 o'clock. So that's the whole pathway mapped out, if you like. You start on the Ipgde, the postgrad diploma in education. If after a year you decide actually you want to halt your studies, then you can exit with a postgraduate certificate in education. The postgraduate certificate in education is 2 courses, but those 2 courses would not merit you being given a teaching qualification within this. So it's the whole diploma aspect that has the teaching qualification within it. And we gradually build up more and more critique and more skill sets, if you like, of that analysis of your practice, always coming from your own context, your own challenges in your practice and taking those further. Behind it all, Russell mentioned the idea of inclusivity within the university, and that's at the heart of what we do within this programme, is really looking at social justice and inclusion and how are we enacting this, what are the kind of messages and lessons that we can learn with and from each other in order to develop that approach as a classroom practitioner as well. We will be focusing on literacies, that includes your own literacies, but the literacies that you need your learners to have in order to undertake the learning that you're giving them as well. And all the way through this peer-led learning, so working with others, sharing your thinking with others is critical to what we do. It's critical to developing and enhancing your practice as you go through. Jed? Okay, so our programme really has got high expectations of people engaging with it, and we do want you to be prepared for that challenge, to be prepared for sharing your thinking around your practice and for others to be questioning you and sharing their thinking about their practice as well. So critical reflection, really examining your own value bases, where we start to make assumptions, and we all do this throughout our lives. We make assumptions about others, about learning and about learners, and how do we start unpacking that so that we can then look further about how to support it. It is about engaging with others to articulate your thinking. This whole idea of constructive learning, constructivist approach to learning, we enact through this programme as well. And it's about being open to the challenges that you'll be given, constructive challenges from peers and from your tutors throughout the programme. Okay, and that just gives you a little bit more about how we assess the programme. So we start off focusing on reflection. You're thinking about reflection in terms of creating inclusive learning. We then take that further into how you're developing literacies within your own subject areas. And then into the second year, developing inquiry further, putting it from a more global perspective about what is it about education in schools that we are all tasked and challenged with doing, and what does that then mean about practice in your own context as well. In that second year, each course has an observation of practice for part of that as well. And all the way through, it's not just actually in that final course, but all the way through building that evidence of your practice, that evidence of inquiry, and analysing, well, what actually then would be the next steps for you as a practitioner and your next steps in terms of developing learning and teaching with your young people. Okay. So we're going to hear more for student learning services just now.
Okay, thanks very much, Yvonne. I know we're coming to questions at the end, but I'm going to just give you the question now to think about it a little bit, because as I was watching the slides and listening to you talk, I was thinking that maybe, and I've had somebody assess my teaching practice in the past, and for some people that's the most nervous thing, isn't it? Having a third person come in and observe your teaching in the classroom. How does it work? What sort of things do the teachers have to do beforehand? How are they going to be assessed? What do they produce for that assessment? And what do they do with the feedback? I'll give you that question now to think about. We'll run through this and then we'll come back to say a bit more about that afterwards. Okay, so I'm not Marwa. I'm back with Russell Williams here. Jad, can we have the next slide? So we've got I mentioned the campus here in Qatar. We've got a student hub support team here for you. They're here to help you as a learner, and they mirror the services that are there in Aberdeen for our students in Aberdeen. They're there as well, and these are academic and non-academic support services that you can contact the student hub to come in for. Jad, next slide. So lots of things, you may be being sponsored, you need a letter, or you may need letters for other purposes, say you're studying. You may need support with the learning platform that we use, which is My Aberdeen, a version of Blackboard. How do you registering, getting your transcripts, any other sort of issues that you may have, those are all dealt with by the student hub team here in Qatar, but of course they're working very closely with the parallel team in Aberdeen as well. Okay, Jad, next slide. Okay, Khalid will say a bit more about the journey from application to enrolment, and then we'll come back to questions in just a minute. Thank you, Khalid.
Thank you very much, Russell. Good evening, everybody. My name is Khalid. I'm the Student Outreach Officer and Course Advisor at the University of Aberdeen here in Qatar. Thank you, Jad. So, Al-Falah Group for Educational and Academic Services offer products and services ranging from kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, and all the way up to university. Al-Falah Group partnered with the University of Aberdeen to open its first international branch, which is in Qatar. And it's the first British university with its own campus that opened in Qatar in 2017. Here we have some of the majors that we offer, all the majors that we offer here in Doha, Qatar, sorry. And all of these majors are accredited and approved by the Ministry of Education and Higher Education here in Doha. Next slide, please, Jad. So we are located in Al Marmora, Doha, on Ali bin Ali Talib Street. And what you can benefit from our campus facilities is a learning resources center where students can take out books from the library. They have access to the main university library in Scotland, where they can get over 70,000 reports, books, journals, and more. Top of the range IT suites, spacious teaching and learning space, student services hub, which Russell explained before, separate fitness rooms and student common rooms, a clinic with a nurse that's there from the start of the morning until late evening, a cafeteria which is open, same from the start until evening, and a student parking, which every 10 minutes is a shuttle bus that comes to and from the university to pick up the students. So how would you apply to the university? So you could inquire for the course by calling us, sending us an email, or visiting us at our campus at the admissions department, where we'll be able to tell you everything about the courses you're interested in. And if everything's okay from there, you can either take the application form from us, download it from the website, or we can email it over to you. You need to complete the application form and submit it with your validated ID copy, passport copy, certificate, degree, the certificate, transcript, your high school certificate, and your if you have IELTS, one of those as well, if you have a second language English. Then you would send it to admissions@afg-aberdeen.edu.qa. You would wait for our response, and if successful, you receive an acceptance letter. After that, you would need to pay the registration fees via bank transfer to complete your enrollment. And the next step would be to begin your journey when the course starts. Thank you very much, and back to Russell.
Okay, thank you very much, Khalid. I'm going to hand over to Yvonne, and we'll take the question that I posed to Yvonne about the assessed teaching practice, and then we've got a question in the chat room already, and I'll reveal that question after Yvonne. So Yvonne, over to you first.
Yeah, thank you. So you were asking what happens when we're out doing an observation and setting everything up before that as well. So we don't just appear out the blue, just to reassure people about that as well. And the observation will be as a result of planning. It will be something you discuss with us as to what it is you're going to be teaching. We will come and observe practice, usually for about an hour, and then we have a conversation, a learning conversation afterwards. So a lot of the observation is actually a kind of formative professional development, as opposed to making a judgment about practice there and then. However, we do have to look at the professional standards. I mentioned the role of the General Teaching Council for Scotland are involved in this, as in they have accredited the programme. And we use their professional standards for teachers to underpin what it is that we're doing within the programme as well. So when we go to match to look at practice, we have these in mind, but we will be sharing this with you, be discussing with you what do these things mean, how might you evidence this, so not just in what we're seeing on the day, but also in other activities, learning, and the way that you get feedback from your learners, for instance, will all become part of the conversations that we have and part of you sharing your thinking with us. So it is formative. If it's not meant to be, but although I know it is, whenever anybody is in observing your practice, and straight away that just changes the dynamics of the class, it changes the dynamics of what's going on. But we're there really to engage in conversation about practice, have a look at what's happening. We'll be looking at that very much through a kind of inclusive practice lens as well. And then we'll have a discussion about, well, what would you like to take forward? How might you do this? And then when we come back to observe another time, we'll be looking to see, okay, what did you build on? How have you tackled various challenges that you might have had between then and the second observation? So it is done supportive, and it's definitely done in terms of that collaboration with you. You'd be sending us plans, you'd be justifying what you do, giving us a little bit more about the context of the learning taking place, so that when we are observing the class, we know where you're coming from and know what you've been doing beforehand as well. I hope that helps reassure you.
Oh, okay, Yvonne, thanks so much. That's reassured me. Yeah, so it's as you say, it's a development process. So there's more than one teaching observation, and it's development between the two, yeah. and a lot of reflexivity about what's happened and what can be developed. With the faculty from Aberdeen, I guess, sort of being a foil for you to have a conversation off of.
Indeed, yeah.
Good. We've got one question in the chat from Terence that's relevant here, and I think it's maybe a point that you made earlier. The question is, what are the core requisites to qualify on the course? So I'm not sure if that's what exactly do you need to get on the course, or whether, which of course you can answer again, or it's a question about what do you need to pass on the course to get the Ipgde.
Well, we'll take that both ways.
Yeah.
So in order to for entry to the programme, there was a slide earlier that highlights, because this is master's level, you need an honours degree that's at least 2.2 in its classification or an equivalent of that. You need to have taught for 2 years prior to taking up a place on the programme as well, and you need to be employed by a school. So that this is not for people who have aspirations of becoming a teacher. This is for those who are already teaching, but they want to do something else about their own professional learning and development. So I maybe should clarify that as well. So yeah, so you need the English language equivalencies. You need to have the honours degree. And then if you're wanting to meet the GTCS requirements as well, there's a literacy and numeracy requirement, but we're talking literacy and numeracy requirement, we're talking about something you would do at high school yourself, on an equivalent of that in terms of English and English for literacy and mathematics for the numeracy. So that's getting onto the programme. To qualify throughout the programme, you have to complete basically all the assignments and all the courses have to be completed successfully. So there's the 4 courses, 2 in year 1 and 2 in year 2, and you must have a satisfactory 2 satisfactory teaching observations. So that's the bit, that's what you have to do in order to qualify through the course as well. The other side of that, though, is if you're wanting recognition, maybe that's what it leads to. If you're wanting recognition by the General Teaching Council, let's suppose you wanted to come and teach in Scotland, for instance, you would actually have to apply to the General Teaching Council for Scotland. You would say you've done this qualification, you've got X amount of years of experience, and that you meet all their entry requirements for being a teacher in Scotland. So I don't know if that's the bit that you were meaning there, Terence, and maybe if you've got further question, please do ask.
Okay, Yvonne, thanks for that. Just to clarify one other thing, you described there the assessment for the diploma of the Ipgde, which is over 2 years. Students can also go on after the Ipgde and take a further dissertation, which is the master's level qualification, and that would, what does that involve, the dissertation normally?
So the dissertation it's a 60 credit study, can be done within a year. Sometimes students take longer, they maybe take 18 months, and that's because, again, they're trying to implement some research into learning and teaching within their classroom context. So they're often tied into, obviously, the school terms and being able to do something in the term time with their own classes. So the final dissertation stage, that gives you the full masters then. And because of the way in which we're developing inquiry skills throughout the diploma, you don't need to do, normally there's a prerequisite of a research methodology course that you have to do, but we'll be embedding these things throughout the diploma programmes as you go through as well, the diploma courses. So it is just that final master's dissertation. But it's practice-based and practice-focusing dissertation. It's all about your practice.
Okay, good. And I've got another question, actually, that, you know, obviously the current situation means that we're delivering more and more online through mediums like this, but we're going to use the university's online classroom, Collaborate, inside My Aberdeen. But we're quite experienced, or the School of Education is certainly quite experienced of doing that. How do the sort of sessions work on Collaborate or this virtual classroom? Do you want to say just a few words about that?
That's one of the things that we've been doing this for many years, doing online and distance learning for a long time. And part of that means that we're able to model what learning online can look like. Behind all of this is starting with the, you know, what is the kind of philosophy you have about learning, the philosophy you have, the pedagogies that you want to employ. And for us, that is about that collaboration. It's about that constructing your learning with and through others and through dialogue. These are all parts of what we want to do. So when we are doing the online learning, that's precisely what we're targeting on. We are wanting people to engage a little bit with the lecturer, and I'll explain that in a wee minute, but quite a lot of the time we'll be putting you into groups, you'll be in small breakout rooms, you'll be discussing ideas with others, you'll be critiquing some ideas and developing your thinking through that way. The tutors will be there, tutors will be supporting. But I suppose it's more like a flipped learning kind of approach where if there is something that, you know, a kind of lecture style that we want you to do, then we're not going to spend the precious online time doing that. We'll ask you to go and look at something first and then come into the workshop having read something. So we very much kind of flip the learning around. If there's a key paper we want you to have read beforehand, you'll be told, and we expect you to come into the workshop having read that and having been ready to discuss some of the ideas in and around it. And then we put you into breakout rooms, breakout groups in order to do that. So the working with others, working in groups, collaborating with others, we will be modelling how we're doing that through our online learning environment. And introducing to other tools as well as we go through. You know, we'll use things like Padlet for getting feedback and things, little tools that you can tap into yourself for your own practice.
Okay, Yvonne, thanks so much. There's just a couple of questions that have come into the chat room now.
All right.
It's just, they just slid up actually. Let me just move that down a little bit.
Should we attend the class?
Should we attend the class? So
absolutely.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think you have to attend the classes. There's no way of not attending these classes. But I think what normally happens if we're not in this current situation is that the first opening class would be face to face, but it will be online in the first year. Is there a first face to face one in the second year as well, or is it all online after the first one?
No, but we had planned the start of each year would be online, not online, but face to face twilight sessions, if it works out that we're able to do that. But otherwise, we will be online. We will have live sessions, as I say, using the Blackboard environment. But we expect you to attend. We absolutely do expect you to attend. And those classes for Qatar time will take place between 4 and 6 if it's a 2-hour session, or between 4 and 5 if it's a 1-hour session.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So another question was, can we exit the program before finishing the Ipgde? And well, the Ipgde is made up of the first year, which is 60 credits. And if you exit with that, you get a certificate. Postgraduate certificate, and then if you go on and do the second year and you get the Ipgde, which is what you need to get the general teaching council qualification, that's the second year, and that's another 60 credits, a total of 120 credits. And then, as you explained, if you're feeling, you want some more, then there's the MEd of another 60 credits of the dissertation, which would be a total of 180. Credits. So yeah, there are some exit award at each year effectively. Yeah, okay. I think we've answered the questions that are in the chat. Any final observations, Yvonne? Otherwise, we'll just wait a couple of minutes just to see if anyone wants to raise a question. But any final observations?
I'm just looking at some of the other questions there. Do you have a PhD in educational research program? We have PhDs in education. Yeah, that's a separate program. And actually, I suppose the masters, if you do well in the masters, that leads into you can carry on and do a PhD, but that exists already as well. Same entry requirements are needed for Qatar. Yes, the program's designed for Qatar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the entry requirements are, I mean, you described a good honours degree. Effectively, what we need applicants to do is send their degree transcripts in, and the admissions team will process those through to Aberdeen, and we will assess the equivalence of your degree if it's equivalent to a 2-2 degree. The Teacher Training Council, or the General Teaching Council, sorry, requires you to have a basic maths and English competency level, and you can check that out yourself. I think against your own, you can benchmark your own qualifications against those. So they're equivalent qualifications, because we recognise that people in teaching in Qatar are coming from all over the world, and actually people who come to Aberdeen to do the programme in Aberdeen come from all over the world. There's a question from Farah. I'm a biology teacher for 13 years. And a biology coordinator for 3 years. What will your programme add to my professional career?
That's a good question. I would like to think that we will be expecting you to be challenging yourself, to be looking at, but by evidence of learning, I don't just mean looking at results and giving yourself a pat on the back or anything, but actually looking at your practice through a critical lens, that critical lens being shaped by inclusive practice, and taking a chance just to step back and ask yourself some really challenging questions in and around what is it you're seeing for your practice? How might your practice be further enhanced? In particular, what would you like to now develop? Because 13 years, I'm hoping you carry on developing as a practitioner over that time as well. And in teaching and in education, we never stand still. There are always new things, there are always new aspects. Every year we have different learners in front of us. So what then do they bring? What challenges do they bring that make us rethink and reshape our practice? And that's what I would hope you would focus in on for this programme.
Okay, great. There's a couple more questions. Questions are coming in now, so that's good. There's a question about, Yvonne, you can probably see it as well. I work in education at a university. I don't have traditional teaching experience. Gaining an Ipgde would help a lot in my line of work. Does not having a solid 2 years of traditional teaching experience hinder chances of being accepted?
So it's not, I say now, it is not designed for people who are working at a university. There are other programs that the university does that would be targeted for university lecturers. This one in particular is looking at learning in school and the school's context. So I'm not sure whether Ipgde really would be the right pathway for you when you're looking to develop your practice at university. And within your university, I wonder, you haven't said which university, but if they've got a postgraduate certificate in higher education, for instance, might be something worth considering rather than the Ipgde.
Okay, good. There's another question. When will the first day of classes be? I know, Yvonne, you've been working on the timetable. I know when that is. Yes, I think I know, but you can probably be more accurate than me.
Yeah, and I'm just going to my calendar. It is the last Monday in October. So the 26th of October, we start with an induction. But we've got 3 induction sessions on my calendar. It's 1 till 3. I think that's 4 to 6 Qatar time. So that's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 26th, 27th, 28th of October. And then the first workshop, if you like, seminar is the following Monday on the 2nd of November. But it's those Monday afternoon slots that we'll be using, or Monday twilight times in your time.
Okay. Another question's come in. PhDs are popular. I have a master's degree in school management and educational leadership, and have experience of teaching 8 years. In teaching of 8 years, yeah. Am I eligible for a PhD program? Well, I think in the UK you would be eligible for a PhD program. We'd have to look at your master's level qualification and its equivalents. But to do a PhD program normally requires you to write a PhD proposal.
Yeah.
So you have to have identified an area of literature and a gap in the literature, and what that sort of objective of your research is in the proposal. And it's usually the proposal that then goes into the school, and the faculty will examine the proposal and say whether they think there's enough in it, and in which case, if they have supervisory capacity, they'd come back to you with a discussion or some observations to move the proposal forward. Yeah, I think I've got it there, Yvonne.
Yeah, absolutely. The key bit is to think about what it is you think you're going to research, or what you would like to research. What I would suggest you do is have a look at the staff profiles, have a look at their areas of research interest, and see if there's an alignment. Because if there's not an alignment, then it's maybe not the place to come to for the PhD.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So check the profiles of the faculty. Yeah. I have been teaching for 10 years. 6 of them preschool level, but I don't have an education degree. Am I eligible to enroll in your program?
I think the question is, do you have a degree?
Have you got an honours degree? Yeah. Don't have an education degree. I'm imagining that they've got a degree. It's just not an education degree.
I think that's okay, because those are relevant. I'm assuming the degree is of relevance. It's not. Doesn't have to be a Bachelor of Education degree or anything. It just needs to be an honours degree that's got some relevance to what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, we'd welcome that application, and we can assess that application when
and
it comes.
I'm getting the sense a lot of applications will be dealt with on a one-to-one basis anyway, because of the different areas that we're looking for. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, so we had a late flurry of questions there. I think I've scrolled to the bottom now. So Yvonne, I said, did you have any final observations? You don't have to have a final observation if you haven't got one. We can draw the webinar to a close, but if you had one, now is your moment.
I'll just pick up on a kind of unique aspect of this is having the accreditation by the General Teaching Council for Scotland for the Ipgde component, which is fabulous. But for me, it's the excitement of working with teachers who are in practice, who are then wanting to explore their practice further and taking that within a community of inquiry approach. It's just a lovely thing to be part of, actually. And I'm very much looking forward to teaching as part of this, and so are the rest of my team.
That's great, Yvonne. Thanks very much. We're really excited to have the School of Education join us in the portfolio programmes here on the Qatar campus. So thank you everyone for your time tonight and your interest in the University of Aberdeen. Feel free to contact the admissions department if you've got any questions after the event, and we'll be able to come back to you as quickly as possible. Have a good evening, and thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.